Welcome, Husker fans. Thank you for tuning into Big Red Radio, the Husker Talk Show. As always, I am your host, Caleb Jenneret, and next to me is my co-host, Zach Jenneret. Zach, how you doing today?
Doing pretty good. Last night, as Big Red Radio hit a pretty big milestone of 200 subscribers. A big video last week of almost 1.5 thousand views. Been crazy. Been a ride. 200 subscribers. Looking to get to 1,000. That's the goal. Hopefully, maybe by the end of next season, is 1,000 subscribers. That'd be pretty cool. But yeah, it's been crazy. Thank you guys for watching and helping us out on that.
Yeah, appreciate it so much because we started off as like an all sports podcast. We were talking about all sports, fantasy football. Then we did one Nebraska video and it did pretty well. And we're like, maybe we should just do this. So we did Nebraska videos, still sprinkled in some fantasy content in there. And then we made the decision to switch to Big Red Radio. And yeah, just been crazy since then because the views have been going up. I think we switched at what, like 150 subscribers, maybe.
Yeah,
Something.
I know I did some calculations, and average views before Big Red Radio was anywhere from 50 to, I think average was about 100.
Mhm.
And then since then, I think our average is about 750 or 800 now. Is our average video views per video.
Yeah, so that might not seem a lot to you guys, but it means a ton to us because I mean, just speaking from me, I love looking at like how the videos are doing, and it makes sense. Ever since Nebraska's really been falling off a little bit, the Indiana games and Rutgers games, views were still good, but then once we started losing to Minnesota and Illinois, and we released our Michigan preview, and I mean, it was bad. Like it was a good video, but it was like views wise, it was just like nothing. So we're like, yeah, I mean, it makes sense that people don't really want to watch, but we thank you guys that did tune into that Michigan video and that are still tuning in to all these videos because it means a lot to us. And we put the time in to do it. I mean, it's not a huge, it's not like a burden to us because we enjoy doing it and enjoy talking to each other about it and love Nebraska football. But it has been tough to talk about recently. But I think this game's going to be good, and I think with the coaching search, it's going to be more exciting, and we're going to get more people tuning in, and it's going to be really fun. So, yeah, thank you guys. Big 200 subscribers. Big thanks to you guys. And yeah, speaking of subscribers, subscribe to the channel, leave a like, hit the bell so you never miss an episode. We upload every Wednesday and Friday. Wednesdays are usually our recap video. And then Fridays are usually our preview video of the next game. Come off season, I don't know if we'll upload twice a week just because we don't know how much stuff is going to be coming out. Maybe a lot off the bat just because the coaching and the staff and all that stuff will come out. So we might still upload twice a week for that, break some stuff down. But yeah, we can't do it without you guys. So thank you very much. Social shout outs, follow the socials, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. We release our videos over there on socials with mostly on Facebook. A lot of you guys get it from Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and then some short-term content over on TikTok and also on the Instagram. So we'd appreciate if you guys followed that and keep up with us. But yeah, what do you think about this game before we get into the nitty-gritty?
Yeah, just looking at it, stats wise, I understand that we're 3-7. Wisconsin is 5-5, and that's probably going to scare a couple people here and there. But if you just go into the leaders, Graham Mertz, their passing leader, their starting quarterback, is 140 for 241, 1,900 yards, almost 18 touchdowns and 8 picks. Then you go on the other side, you have Casey Thompson, 141 for 224, so almost identical there. 2,000 yards, 12 touchdowns, 10 picks, which it doesn't show him. It really doesn't at all. Uh, on the running side, Braylon Allen, I thought a Heisman contender for sure this year going into the start of the year, has not shown that. 189 carries for 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns. Anthony Grant has 188, so one less carry. for 900 yards and 6 touchdowns. And then receiving, we got 39 receptions for 601 yards and 6 touchdowns for Wisconsin's leading receiver. And then Trey Palmer as us is 58 receptions, 831 yards, and 5 touchdowns. So just based on stats, really these two teams are identical. We play very similar football. We're both in the same coaching situation. This game could not be more similar, and it's very winnable. It is. We always, we really historically play very well at home, and I'm glad this game is at home because I wouldn't feel great if it was in Wisconsin, and very glad that Casey Thompson is starting this week as well. So that should be huge.
Yeah, and that leads right into my first segment. So why we should be excited? My first reason is Casey Thompson's probably coming back, not 100%, but I think Mickey said he would expect him to play on Saturday.
I think he
So
said unless he wakes up and it doesn't feel good, he's playing.
right, right. So yeah, I
So he's
mean,
playing.
obviously, if you guys are
Because
watching this, if you
if it
guys
doesn't, if he wakes up and doesn't feel good, nobody's gonna know except Casey. I can tell you that
right,
right now. So
and
he's
I
playing.
from the way Casey Thompson has acted throughout this whole year, even if he does wake up and it doesn't feel good, I doubt he's going to tell anybody. Like he wants to
Exactly.
play. The dude wants to compete. So yeah, I mean, and if you've been watching the games, you realized how important Casey Thompson actually is. Like, yeah, Zach said those stats don't blow anything out of the water. 12 touchdowns, 10 picks, but I mean, at least 5 of those picks are he's getting hit less than a second trying to make something happen and get
Absolutely.
picked off. So it's
And
nothing like that.
I just want to say one thing. So here was my biggest fear when Casey Thompson got hurt semi late in the season and wasn't coming back. My biggest fear was he wasn't going to come back at all and he was going to leave.
Mm,
But so we saw that last year with Martinez. When Martinez walked on senior day against Iowa, probably could have played that game.
he was wearing a
And
sling. I don't know.
I think he could have. I think he could have played that game and got the treatment after that game. But I think he already had it in his mind that he wasn't going to be there next year. And so no point in playing, right? Like I'm not going to say he was already sold out. He'd already sold out to the team, but in a way he has. Casey Thompson coming back and playing a Wisconsin game and hopefully the Iowa game shows that he is still fully committed to this Nebraska team for this year and next year. Trey Palmer not walking shows that he is committed to next year. Garrett Nelson not walking shows that he is hopefully committed to next year. A lot of our key pieces are returning, which is so big and brings me so much hope for next year. And that's a real big reason I'm glad Casey Thompson is walking, not only because I feel like he's a key piece that wins us games, but or not walking, but playing. I feel like he not only is he a key piece that wins us games, but it also shows that he's committed to this team for more than just this year.
Yeah, 100%. So one more stat that I wanted to mention about Casey before we move on to the next one. So if you take the time from when the Illinois game started to now, Casey Thompson is still the leading passer on the team. So Casey Thompson got hurt right before halftime, I believe, and had 172 yards passing against that Illinois defense that's supposed to be top 5 in the nation. Yeah.
It was
Okay.
was driving the ball.
Right. Was not having a problem completing passes, driving down the field, probably going to score on that drive. And I think we beat Illinois without or with Casey Thompson. Obviously, that doesn't matter now. We lost. But I think it's crazy. And it's a sentiment to Casey Thompson, how important he is because he had 172 yards in that game. Chuba doesn't have that in the 2 games he started. Logan doesn't have that in the 2 games that he saw action. So it's super, super important to get Casey Thompson back. And I've been reading articles about this game and this preview, and people are like, this Nebraska offense has died. Like it's not the same as what it was earlier in the year. Like if you're watching the games, you know that's not true. Like you just know that we had a circumstance where our starting quarterback went down and the backups just weren't ready. And why ever that may be, why they might not be ready. They're not getting enough time in practice. They're not good enough. I'm not saying that, but that's just like, I don't know, just throwing stuff out there. If you're a Nebraska fan, that this offense is going to look 100% different than it has the last two games. So yeah,
Absolutely.
that's my.
And I don't think there's a team in the nation that's been given a harder, stick to play with here other than Nebraska. You're not only a coach, but like the coach that everyone wanted to succeed. It was 100% acceptance rate when Scott Frost came in and 100% hate rate when he left. Like he flipped the team completely. He flipped the culture completely in a bad way. Um, our starting quarterback goes down. Things aren't really looking up as far as offense goes. Just a lot of bad things are happening. And yeah, I mean, I wouldn't expect a backup to go into a hostile, honestly, hostile on your own team and perform well there. So no, I'm not surprised. I'm not mad at him either.
Yeah, so that was my first reason to be excited. Was that one of your reasons, or do you have a different one?
Um, I just think that I mean we're at home and it feels like we have the belief back. Like I don't think we had the belief against Minnesota and Purdue. I don't think we had the belief against Michigan, which is fine in the fan base, but I there's something that tells me the belief is back now that Casey's back and it's senior day and these guys are going to play well and I just feel like there's going to be more energy in this game.
Yeah, 100%. So my next reason why we should be excited is this Wisconsin offense is nothing special. Very, very comparable to Minnesota's offense. I think Minnesota's offense is actually a little bit better, depending on what you think about Mo Ibrahim and Braylon Allen. Um, but this Wisconsin offense is 0-5 when they complete less than 60% of their passes. So if you can force, I know it seems like a lot to ask, but the defense has been playing really good against some really good running backs recently. I mean, Blake Corum had a really good game, but that's a totally different monster. He's in the Heisman race right now. So, um, but against Mo Ibrahim and against Chase Brown, they played really well when they had the time to rest and when they had time to sit on the sideline and really develop and really take that time. So I have no doubt that we can hold Braylon Allen maybe a little bit. And if we force Graham Mertz to have to make plays, he's not going to, and that he hasn't shown that he will all year. So yeah, I feel really, really good about our defense in this game, especially if our front seven can get some run stopping ability against Braylon Allen.
Yeah, for sure. Sorry, I'm also watching my wrestling team right now compete in the corner here. So my second reason to be excited here is this is not the offensive powerhouse or defensive powerhouse that we've been seeing in these last few games. Wisconsin has a good defense, but not great. They gave up a lot of points to Iowa. Sure, a lot of those were defensive points, but still gave up points and haven't really shown anyone that they're a great team anywhere. And so in the past, I'll leave that for when we're scared. But yeah, Graham Mertz hasn't shown anything crazy like he used to. Braylon Allen sure hasn't, and the defense sure hasn't. So another reason to be excited is just that this is a winnable game. This is another Indiana game. This is another Rutgers game. Like we're not going into a game that we're heavy underdogs in, and where we had to make something crazy happen. This is just go out there and play some football, and we'll win this game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So my last reason that we should be excited is, as Zach mentioned, Wisconsin usually has this like a really good defense, really good run game. I mean, they're the definition of Big Ten football. And now they just don't have it. Like they still have a good run game and they still have a good defense, but it's not what it usually is. In Power Five games this year, their defense is allowing over 25 points per game. And that's something that's totally unprecedented in Wisconsin's history. And Jim Leonard is a smart guy. I really do think he's a smart guy. I do think he's probably the favorite to land that Wisconsin job right now. But look what he's working with. Like he has some studs, which we'll get into later. But it's just not a lot, and it's hasn't proven to be this usual Wisconsin team that we're used to seeing. So I like Wisconsin or Nebraska's offense's chances, especially with Casey Thompson back, as I mentioned. So I think Trey Palmer's going to break off some big plays that he hasn't been able to. I think Anthony Grant breaks a couple. I think Marcus Washington, Vokalek, Alante Brown getting involved now. I like a lot more. So I like them to have big games, and I like this to be I wouldn't say high scoring game, but maybe a little bit better than it has been in the past few weeks.
Yeah. My last reason to be excited here is just that I feel like Mark Whipple is running the ball. Finally running the ball. And this game's going to be really, really cold, very cold. And you want to break down a defense in the cold, send Anthony Grant, Yant, Ramir Johnson, send them all at him. And
Mhm.
you will break a defense in the cold because I promise you, a Big Ten Division One running back is not going to get broke in the cold. But a couple D linemen, a couple linebackers, yeah, they probably will. Especially if you're running against guys like Yant when they're as big as your D linemen.
Mhm.
Um, it's probably gonna wear you down, and that's when our pass game starts to go. So I'm just excited to see this run game start to go. Glad Mark Whipple's finally coming back and running the ball. Um, Again, don't think he's going to be here next year.
He's
Nothing
coaching
against
from the
him. I
press
just think
box on Saturday.
he
Whatever
is.
you want to think of that.
Yeah, I mean, he should. He's old, so he needs to for his own safety. But I don't think he's going to come back next year, and that has nothing to do with him as a coach. I just think the new coach is going to bring in their own, and I think he's going to go get a great job because he's proven over and over again at different places that he's a great coach and a great offensive coordinator. So someone's going to take him.
Yeah, 100%. So, yeah, moving on to now the negative aspect of our show, why we should be scared. My first one is really bad. It's looking back in history a little bit. So, if you take these Wisconsin running backs, they've usually had their best games against Nebraska. You look at Melvin
It's
Gordon.
really not. It's not even close. It's not
No,
even
you
close.
you look at Melvin
A
Gordon
lot of them
ran for
start their
over
Heisman candidacy with us,
yeah,
or
you look at
I should say, cap off their Heisman
right.
candidacy with us.
You look at Melvin Gordon a few years or more than a few years back,
Which,
rushing
okay,
record. Broke the rushing record.
at the same time though, sure, we have given up probably the most to them. But let's go ahead and look at who Wisconsin
Sure.
had in their
No,
freaking
I
back.
completely agree. But also you look at who they have, you look at what they did against other teams, it's kind of a thing for Wisconsin to come and just absolutely run the
No,
ball
it
like
is. And me and Caleb saw that firsthand. We were at the Jonathan Taylor game.
yeah,
He did. I mean, it was on full display. He is that guy, and he's shown that in the NFL. Melvin Gordon showed that in the NFL. Like these guys aren't, just the Purdue running back coming
right.
out here and running all over. These are the real guys. But no, for sure, yeah, these guys, and that was going to be my first. Is these guys put on a clinic against us every year in and year out. They turned to a Heisman level running back, and Braylon Allen did against us last year. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean that's for sure a reason to be scared, without a doubt.
Yeah. Hopefully a little bit different this year, but we'll see. Um my
Yeah, and
next one,
that's what I was saying. I mean, those guys didn't have 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns going into the game. They
yeah.
had a whole lot more than that.
Right. And
You know
it's
what I
been
mean?
like Wisconsin has had historic offensive lines for a long time. And this year's good. Like, obviously, I would much rather have their offensive line than ours, but I mean, it's nothing crazy. Like, it's not the best offensive line in the country. So,
No.
yeah, I mean, and then moving on to my second one, Wisconsin has a lot to play for still. You can say like Nebraska. I mean, Nebraska's going to be fired up in this game. It's senior day. Obviously, they want to play for Mickey. They've been fired up in every game, but Nebraska or Wisconsin still has a lot to play for. They win one more game, they're bowl eligible. They win. I think they have to win out, and they'll have a chance in the Big Ten West still. So they have a lot to play for, and they're going to come in hungry. They don't care who's in their way. They just want to get to that ultimate goal. And yeah, Nebraska's just not in that spot. Not saying, I mean, obviously, I'm not saying Nebraska's going to lay down and not play hard, but Wisconsin has a lot more reason to play harder. So that's, I mean, I think that's a reasonable thing to be worried about.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you definitely see him being relaxed uh here, but just a reason to be scared. For me, what I would say is just like don't we can't be overlooking this Wisconsin team. They are still very good. Braylon Allen is still very good. Graham Mertz, when he wants to be, is still a very good quarterback. And Jim Leonard is a very good coach and has done great things with this team. And we've been kind of on the downturn. And don't don't think I'm hating Casey on this, but I wouldn't be surprised if Casey's rushing this injury back
Hmm.
uh, as fast as he can. Just and that's nothing against him. It's actually a compliment to him, but he's such a tough guy that wants to show out for his team so much that he may push through when he can, when it's not obvious to play out here. And I just hope Casey comes back 100%. But especially with nerves and stuff like that, you could definitely see him coming out here and underperforming just because of his injury before.
Yeah, 100%. So my last reason to be scared is, man, they got a stud. They got a real stud on their defense. Nick Herbig, um, second in the nation in sacks. He has 11 this year. And if you didn't know, Nebraska's offensive line isn't that good. So look for him to have a field day. Unless we can scheme something up around him, double teams. I wouldn't really want our offensive line to double team because they can't single team very well. So who knows if we leave a gap open, what can happen? But yeah, no, their best player on defense is our worst position group is going against our worst position group, maybe on the team. So not a very good matchup there if you're looking at it that way. So that's definitely something to watch out for because this guy's legit. This guy can rush the passer and an elite level, close to what TJ Watt was doing at Wisconsin. So this guy is not saying he's TJ Watt. TJ Watt's on a whole nother level, but this guy's legit. This guy's really good.
Yeah, for sure. My last reason is not only is Braylon Allen going to play in this game, but Wisconsin's running back Ches Malusi is going to play in this game, and he is also very good. He's missed the last 4 games with a wrist injury, um, but now they kind of have a two-headed monster in the backfield, not just that one that they usually have against us. They usually kills us. Now there's two of them, and we don't have the rotation on the D line to sustain a rotation of two good running backs. We
Mm-hmm.
barely have the rotation on the D line to sustain one good running back, let alone two. Um, and we just cannot let them control the time of possession, control the field, and just run the ball all over us because that's what they're going to want to do. Like Caleb said, if they throw the ball, they're not successful. But if they can just run Braylon Allen down your throat and now with Ches Malusi, they're going to be very successful if you let them.
Yeah. Now getting into our X factors, our Husker X factors. Starting it off, like we mentioned before, this team is not very good passing the ball. So if we force Graham Mertz to have to make throws, I like our chances a lot on defense because he hasn't shown that he can do it. He was a high recruit, so I know he can do it, but just hasn't shown in his career. He had a really good game against Illinois, I think last year, but this year has just been really disappointing. I think in the last few games he hasn't completed over 40% of his passes, and yeah, I mean just not looking good. So I think Nebraska needs to try to force him to make some big plays.
Yeah, for sure. My first X factor is going to be you got to run the ball. It's going to be really cold. Casey's coming back from an injury, and they're going to rush the passer really, really well. You got to run the ball. You got to establish the run game here. Mark Whipple is showing signs of it. You got to go full in on it. And like I've said before, I don't care if the first down run is 2 yards, run it again on second down. We know we can throw the ball with Casey on third. There's no secret about that. There's no secret that Vokalek can get open, Trey Palmer can get open, Marcus Washington can get open. Alante Brown can get open. There's no secret there. People know that will happen on third down. Run the first two downs and see what we can do.
Yeah, 100%. Next is kind of similar to that. It's keep the ball on offense. Recently, we've seen our defense start out really strong and kind of slow down as time goes on. And I think a lot of that is the offense just can't sustain these drives, and the defense is going to have to be out there over and over and over and over for a long period of time. And that really wears down at defense. And keeping the offense on the field, it really lets those guys take a break, get some water, get some rest, and then come out more fresh. And that's going to help us a lot in slowing down Braylon Allen. And I think with Casey, we can do that. But I just need Nebraska to really show that they can sustain these drives. Like a 4-minute drive that ends in a punt, it's not good. But also, like, you just let your defense rest for 4 minutes. And that's what a Big Ten game is. There's going to be a lot of punts in this game. I mean, you're just expecting it going into it. It's not going to be a Purdue game where it's just up and down the field like crazy. Purdue has no defense, and Purdue has a ton of offense. So Wisconsin's not built like that. And Nebraska right now, I don't think is built to just beat down on anybody. So it's going to be a close game, and it's going to go down to the wire, and it's going to be one of those defensive games where you have to have a fresh defense and you have to get three first downs a drive to really give your defense a chance to do what they can do.
Yeah, absolutely. And that kind of leads into mine. So when that does happen, right? We have a 4-minute, 5-minute drive and we punt at the end. Um, he's done it all year, but Bushini's got to come out there and you got to pin Wisconsin deep because it's going to be cold, like we've said time and time again. They're not great at throwing, like we've said over and over. And honestly, I said this in the Minnesota and the Illinois game, and it proved to be true and we went away from it. If you pin a rushing team deep, they're not going to score very often because they cannot run the length of the field. I don't care who your running back is, he's not going to run the length of the field every time. And so you just got to do it time and time again and pin them deep and continue to win that field position battle because it's going to be a nitty gritty, ugly game. And that's the games you got to win.
100%. So my last X factor is kind of like what I said in my first one, score early. I mean, I said this against Minnesota and it proved to be true. If you score early on these Big Ten teams that really just like to run the ball, control the clock, you're forcing them to play from behind, and they're not built to do that. Wisconsin is built to get the ball, drive it on the field, score, and then keep the lead. They're not built to try to come back, especially with Graham Mertz at quarterback with how he's been playing recently. You got to score early, and Nebraska's been good at that. Take out last week. I mean, I think we've scored on our first drive a couple games in a row. Against Illinois, we scored on our first drive. Against Minnesota, Chubba Purdy led a really good drive and scored. So, and it proves it's tough for these teams to play from behind unless something crazy happens like that Casey Thompson injury where they have to then where they have good field position and just score. Because if you give it, like Zach said, if you give these teams good field position, they're going to be really good. Wisconsin's really good in the red zone. I think they're scoring on over 80%, scoring touchdown on over 80% of their red zone trips. So, yeah, I would really expect them to want to be in the red zone and live in the red zone if they can. But I also expect Nebraska to do a good job at sustaining these drives and scoring quick because they're going to need it.
Yeah, for sure. And then the final one for me is you got to give Casey time. You got to give Casey time in the backfield because they're going to come after him. And it's not only about the sacks and the yardage now, it's about protecting him because Chubb is out. Logan Smithers is beat up. And there's nothing against guys like Richard Torres, Heinrich Harburg, again, the walk
Jared
on that we
Sinek.
have. Yeah, Jarrett Sinek that we have. And they are great quarterbacks, but they're not ready. They're not ready to come out here in the middle of November and play Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
It's just true. They're just not ready for it. So you got to protect the guy because he's going to get hurt again if we don't, and he's going to get sacked over and over again. And then we're going to lose him, and that's not going to be any good for us or any good for our team. And so you just got to give him time to get back there and throw. And that's just another reason we got to run the ball is the more time you send Casey dropping back in that pocket is the more chances you get him hurt. Is the way we got to look at it now.
Mm-hmm. 100%. So getting into our new segment, short little segment, betting on this game, looking at the lines and stuff, it's pretty favorable, I think, to Nebraska. Um, Wisconsin is favored by 10.5 points. I got them last night at 12.5 points. I would bet the money. I would bet. I mean, I don't know how heavy gamblers you guys are, but um, yeah, if you have money to put on this game, put it on Nebraska plus 10.5 because it's not going to be that. It's not going to be a 10, 12, 2 touchdown game. I mean, it's going to be a close game. It's going to be your typical Big Ten game, going to be close. It's going to be a lot like the Minnesota game. Um, and with Minnesota, we didn't have our starting quarterback. So I would expect Nebraska to really keep this game close all the way down the stretch and maybe even have a chance to win. Maybe sprinkle a little bit on that money line because that's looking pretty good too. So yeah, 10.5 point spread is pretty crazy. I'm staying away from the over under. It's at 39. I don't think it'll, if I had to like pick, which you'll see in my score prediction, I would bet the under, but I am not going to touch it just because it's going to be so close. It's going to be so cold, going to be so unpredictable with Casey coming back. We don't know if he's 100%. So, yeah, I mean that point line's pretty questionable to me.
Yeah, I would also say that point lines are pretty questionable. That's what stood out to me is that I could see this being a 38 or 40 point game. And so I think Vegas did an incredible job with their money line there. Uh, and then the spread for sure, plus 10.5. I get it. We haven't shown out these last few games. We got beat bad by Illinois. We got beat in a game that we should have won against Minnesota, and then we got beat bad by Michigan. So it's fair to put the point spread at plus 10.5, but I'd throw the house on it. There's no way. Not in Lincoln, not with it being this cold. And the money line at plus 310 is, I don't know that there's enough money there to put a lot of money on it. But the spread for sure, I feel like know that you got to put money on that spread before it goes down because by Saturday it's going to be down to like 8 points.
Yeah,
So
a
I'd
lot
put
of
the
people
money on
are
that.
a lot of people are putting money on Nebraska, and not surprising to me. I mean, I put money on them. So yeah. Now moving on to our score predictions. As I've said multiple times in this video already, this is going to be a close game. It's going to be down to the wire. Nebraska or Wisconsin's going to have a chance to win it at the end, and it's just whoever does it. So I think Nebraska does pull it out. I think Nebraska with Casey Thompson is a dangerous offense, and I think the defense is going to do enough to keep this close and give the offense a chance to win this game. And I think Nebraska wins 20-17. Really close, could go either way,
That's crazy.
but I think Nebraska pulls it out.
Yeah, so that's pretty crazy because I also think it's gonna be a low scoring game. I also think it's gonna be nitty gritty, and I also think Nebraska pulls it out. And my score is pretty close to yours. I was gonna say 21-17 is mine. I think we get a touchdown instead of two field goals, but I think 21-17 is where we end up, and I think we go to 4-7 on to beat the freaking Hawkeyes. So ready for that.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot wait. I am incredibly ecstatic because I know we're going to win that game. I don't care who says we're not going to win that game. We're going to win that game. And can't wait. We're going to win these last two games. We're going to get a great coach in here. Mickey's going to get great recruits in here. Casey's coming back. Trey's coming back. Garrett Nelson's coming back. Grant's coming back. All these guys are going to come back and play their butts off, and we're going to do some great things next year.
Yeah, 100% stoked for it. So yeah, that's going to do it for this week's episode. Comment down below your score prediction, because we want to see what you guys think, and you might win a chance to be on next episode. At least your comment will be on next episode. So yeah, maybe if you want to be on, maybe, I don't know, we'll see. But yeah, comment down below, subscribe to the channel, click the bell so you never miss an episode, like it. If you like Nebraska football, which obviously you do because you've made it this far. And yeah, Zach, you got anything else?
That's it for me.
If you're going to the game, stay warm. If you're not going to the game, have fun watching it. Try to have fun watching it, depending on how it goes. I think it's gonna be a fun game. I think it's gonna be a fun game. Can't wait. But yeah, without further ado, we'll see you next Wednesday. Go Big Red.